bit, but we are growing tremendously globally. We are servicing our agents, our clients, our buyers, and our sellers globally. So, to start with what's happening in the economy, let's look at the United States to begin with. So, first thing, gross domestic product. Now, before you yawn looking at the slide, there's only one thing I really want you to know is 70% of GDP is based upon consumer spending. So, if GDP is falling, that means consumers are not spending. That they're not confident in the market, they're holding on to their savings a little bit more. If GDP is growing, for the most part, it means consumers are getting confident again, and they're going out there and they're beginning to spend. That's important to know, because that's what drives so much of what our business is. The other thing I wanted to show you is on this graph, I went back to, I think, about 2008, but you can see the 4 quarters, red bars going down. That's our recession. That's what the United States went through. Then you can start to see the blue bars of growth again in GDP. Starts to come up, then you start to see it slide again. That's where people started saying, whoa, 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 we're going to have a double dip. And then it's growing again. That's the important thing. GDP in the U.S. is growing, and consumers are getting a bit more confident. But that's not all. The next thing is employment is on the rise. And that is a good thing, because the most important factor to what happens to our housing market is housing. And that's what we watch, because people with jobs buy homes and they stay in homes. So a good thing is that our employment is starting to go up. Same thing, if you take a look at the graph, and it's just visually to see every single blue bar that's on the graph accounts for either jobs gained or jobs lost. Look at how many jobs were lost with that deep V that you see there. And at the, I guess it's not the peak, at the bottom of the job loss, we were losing 800,000 jobs per month. We are starting to grow jobs again. In January, employment went up by almost 250,000 jobs in the United States, which is a great thing for us. So, I think it's great. 4.2 million existing homes were sold in 2011. That's a lot of business. That's good. 300,000 new homes were sold in 2011. That to me is a bit of a far cry from the peak of 1.3 million that was sold in about 2006, 2007. The fact is, we're going to be underbuilt, and there is going to be pent-up demand for new homes. So hopefully as builders begin to see the economy turn around, they're going to begin building again, because 300,000 is not enough on the new home front. And then I'm showing you the median home price of $162,000. And the reason I love to show that is because it's really a worthless number. Because everyone in this room, real estate is local. Absolutely. And it's funny how many people will come to me and say, oh, the median price went down or the median price went up. And I try and tell them it doesn't matter. That's not. Talk to an agent in your area, because that's like trying to say that the United States has one weather forecast. It doesn't make sense. You don't have one median price. But the fact is, you have to be able to address that. So the first thing is, right now, what is the makeup of the market, of our inventory, if you will? Well, right now, 47% of our market are distressed properties. And of that 47%, you have short sales, you have move-in ready foreclosures, REO, and you have distressed properties. But if you haven't embraced distressed properties, you need to get on the bandwagon, because it's going to take at least 2 to 3 years to really go through the amount of foreclosures that we still have out there to absorb them into the market. That doesn't mean it's going to take that long for the market to come back, but it's just to absorb a lot of those foreclosures. But let's talk about the current makeup of where our buyers are coming from. And this is interesting to me. So right now we have 43% of all the buyers that are out there are current homeowners that are looking at it saying, boy, interest rates are low. Why don't I go ahead and move up into that bigger property? Let me maybe take a little bit of a haircut on the home I've got, but what I can buy and the value that it could be worth, let's go for it. 33% are still first-time home buyers who hopefully are getting into this market, because you are never going to see times like this again. But here's the number that I love, that excites me the most, is 24% of the buyers out there are investors. Now, these are not the investors from pre-2005 who bought and flipped a property before there was a nail in a piece of wood. These are investors who are buying properties and renting them. In fact, 60% of what investors buy right now are being turned into rental properties, because we have this built-in rental market of all the families that are unfortunately foreclosed upon. They can't qualify for a mortgage. And so they want to be able to rent. But the fact is, if you have children and a dog and a cat, you're not moving into an apartment. You need to move into a home. And so these investors are purchasing properties, quickly fixing them up, and they are renting them. Interesting story, I've said this before. I spoke to, it was an equity trust, and it was an IRA investment type of seminar. And here's what they're doing. They're taking their Roth IRA, they are purchasing a property, making a cash flow, and what they want to do is ride the value of the property back up to, at some point in the future, sell it, and all of that profit goes back into their IRA tax-free. It's really interesting. And so the investors are normal people who might be buying just 1 or 2 properties, but that's where a lot of our buyers are coming from. Next, we like to analyze some of the housing data that we get and really try and stay on top of it for you so we can see what's coming down the line. So this graph, don't worry, I won't go into detail, but I just want you to look at some of the colors that are out there. So these are total loan balance that need to reset. And the graph actually starts in 2006 and goes through 2012. So if you look at the left side of the graph, that purple right there, those are monthly resets of the loans, but the purple, those are all subprime. And at the peak of the subprime, we were at almost $20 billion per month of loans that were being reset of subprime. Move a little bit further right, and you start to see the second mountain, if you will. And that light blue that you see, those are all the option arms. Those are the liar loans, the pick-a-pay, whatever you want to call it. Those creative loans that have been out there. And those are the loans that also had to reset. When we first started looking at this graph, we were all the way over in 2007. And quite honestly, we had a couple mountains to climb, if you will. Now we have climbed them, and we are on the downside. This is positive, because those creative loans aren't really going on anymore out there. All of these loans are either in foreclosure or have been reset and are moving on. And what we're seeing ahead is not those crazy loans that really mess up our market, to be honest with you. This is good. You can see where we are. We're on the downside of this, which is great. So the next one, I love this graph. This one excites me. We took home sales every single year back to 1973, and it's 1973 through 2011. Total home sales, and you can see the amount. The red bars are years in which we had a recession. I want you to look, what happens after every single recession? What happens to home sales? It goes up, it goes up, it goes up. Absolutely. Now the growth and the speed of the growth and the amount, yeah, it varies, but the fact is, look where we are. We are positioned beautifully to see those existing homes begin to go up. Now, interesting, if you take a look at the graph, that one red bar is a little bit higher than the blue bar, the red bar in 2009. Any idea why?
Tax credits.
Tax credit. The tax credit took buyers from the future and pulled them into 2009 so they could get advantage, and the next year slowed down in sales. So we've got a lot going on. As a matter of fact, if you think about it, we're working our way through the foreclosures. Our employment is going up, our unemployment is going down, our GDP is growing, which is great, and we are seeing a trend that after these recessions, we start to have sales, that we start to see momentum move again, and that's where we're positioned. So, with all of this good news, where are our buyers coming from? Well, there's a bunch of different ways. But first, we have 4 very distinct generations right now that are in the market, in different phases, if you will, of the market. So you have the matures who are 67 years old or older, For the most part, they've already downsized. They maybe have one more transaction, housing transaction, but for the most part, they're pretty much out of the market. Baby boomers, though, take a look at them. Right now, they're 48 to 66 years old, 80 million strong in that generation. 80 million. And we know what that many people did to our economy to really grow it and have the impact that they had. Then you go to Gen X. Gen X, well, let's go back to baby boomers actually for a minute. They're in kind of an interesting spot. And I'm a baby boomer. The fact is a lot of baby boomers want to retire. But